Hey guys, Boomfish TCG here, back at it again with another video. This time we're going to be taking a look at onions, a local favorite by our lovely friend Will Intentions. This guy used to run absolutely the craziest of numbers at our locals. Honestly, this deck is very surprising. I'm not really sure how it performs these days, but definitely back in the day when we were playing whatever set Onion had originally come out. Yes, set 9. It's honestly a pretty surprising aggressive deck. Once they get 5 onions online, if they're able to do it fast enough, things get pretty out of hand. And it really depends how many times they draw their Burgent. They have ways of searching her, so it's pretty consistent in that manner. But it just depends if they're able to see their second one. And we're going to get into why that is. But honestly, it's a really fun deck. And yeah, so we're getting into it. First off, name of the deck. We are playing 20 onions. While there are at least 5 cards named Onion Patch in your cemetery, this follower has Storm and Strike, ping an enemy leader or enemy follower for 1. So that sounds pretty underwhelming. And when he came out, I was pretty meh about him. And it also doesn't make the deck the most crazy thing on the planet, period, ever. But what Onion's able to do is kind of play off of your opponent's ignorance. And there are some decks in this game that do that. If you give the Onion player things to swing into, just naturally you'll play like a 1-drop, 2-drop, and you decide to get your chip damage in. That is quite literally the worst possible thing you could ever have done for a Onion player, because they are much more worried about having to actually discard their onions or mill them or blah 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 in that manner, because that takes a lot more effort. They actually have to do something for that. But if within the first 2 turns you're playing against onions, you play 5 in stats in total, well, they could probably trade out most of their hand and feel really good about that. And then almost like just that, if they've already discarded 2 onions, because again, we're playing 20, then all of a sudden their deck's online. And the earlier that happens, the worse it is for you. And trust me, the only way we figured this out is by playing against this monster of a man. And when you do that, and when you fully understand how to counter it, that's a manner in you surviving. But there are hands where that won't matter. The earlier this gets happening, the scarier it is, because even though this only does 1 damage and it only pings something for 1 damage, there is a specific effect that allows that to be completely different. So keep that in mind. And this is obviously the main center point of the deck. This is what you're trying to do. So 20, gotcha. We then also play Mora, Monica's Familiar. So this is a 1 mana 1/1, simply draws and discards. It sounds pretty underwhelming, but again, we're trying to cycle out, so this is actually basically exactly what our deck's trying to do. And there's other synergy that exists in the deck as well. And we have Elusa, Magic Wonderkind. So it's a 1 mana 1/1 Evo for 2. A very classic kind of 1-drop that used to be very common. But it's very specifically good in this deck, because not only does this deck want to go second very badly, but this searches out the best card in the deck. So yeah, you need these. Because it says, evolve, search your deck for an Arcana form follower, reveal it, and add it to your hand, and then shuffle your deck. Cool. Fantastic. That's easy. How many Arcana forms are we running in this deck? I'm going to go over the stuff that we haven't even covered, just so you get a good idea, okay? So, it can't search itself, that's pretty notable, but you wouldn't really want to anyways. You have 20 targets for it. Interesting. Okay, already starting off good. You can search this. You shouldn't, but you could. 22 targets. Gotcha. Sweet. You can search this, so that's 25 targets. Fantastic. 27 targets. Awesome. 30 targets in the entire deck. 3/4 of your main deck are a target for this. Yeah, she's pretty good. Keep that in mind. Moving on from there, we have Burgent Layered Sorceress. So this is a newer copy of Burgent. This was later support. This is a 2-mana 2/2, Evos for 1. At the start of your end phase, if this is in your EX area, you take a look at the top card. If that's an onion, you may summon it, otherwise you put it on the top or the bottom. So this gives you the agency of if you're trying to swarm out, sure, you might be filtering through, but also keep in mind, the reason why this is optional is because if you run out of onions in your deck, magically your deck doesn't do anything anymore, and that's really bad. So, yeah, definitely can go a little bit too crazy with decks sometimes. We're also going to take a look at its Evo. So, on Evo, discard an Onion Patch and draw 2. That is very solid, considering what this deck is trying to do. And then if it dies, you put it into the EX. Okay, so this is a 2-mana, basically an amulet at some point in the game, but it's a 2-mana 2/2, Evo for 1, which is already really solid. Most decks would play this if it has a good effect. And on Evo, you get to cycle through your garbage, aka your onions, to try and fight your better cards and higher synergy pieces. And when it dies, because it definitely will, because your opponent's trying to live, because you're an aggressive deck, it goes into your EX, and it lets you filter through your deck even more, because if you haven't reached your power pieces yet, you aren't, either you're going to summon that onion patch off the top, or you're trying to conserve your numbers in your deck, so you put it at the bottom just to filter through. This is incredible support, but you do definitely want to be careful with this end phase effect, because it's not as great as it might seem. Yeah, and then we're moving on to Witch of Foresight. As you've seen, I played one copy of this in my Omen Mage deck, and the only reason I knew about this is because Will Intentions, my brotherly love, goes out to you for showing me how crazy this card really can be. This deck plays 3 copies of it because it cycles through 3 cards. And I'm telling you, if you hit 2 onions off this damn thing, and then you Evo and draw a card, and that's a relevant card, you're on top of the world. Because your turn 1 is probably just going to be playing one of these little guys. Your turn 2 going second magically puts 2 onions, so now you have a total of 3 if they've cleared it. Naturally, that onion's probably going to die. And then you drew a card. Yeah, this is what we're trying to do, people. This is incredible. And yeah, a natural 3 of in the deck. Way more than what Omen Mages does. Like, they play this, but this is the card that you need in this deck. It's very, very good. But the best card in your deck is Burgent Onion Patch Master. This card is ridiculous. And if you've ever played against onions, you know. So this is a 3-mana 3/3. Look at the top card of your deck. You may summon up to 2 pumpkins, or 2 onion patches from among them. Okay? So 3-mana 3/3, summon 2 1/1s. Pretty decent. Let's take a look at its Evo. While this card is on your field, if an onion patch on your field would deal damage, it deals that +1. And then it also has an effect where you can tap it, search deck for 2 onion patches, and then you can summon them. Okay, let's go over that. So, whenever an onion patch would deal damage, when does it do that? So, that includes either when it has combat damage, so you're attacking them, into creatures or the opponent's face, that deals 2 damage. And then it also deals damage through its strike effect, and that's included as well. So all of a sudden, once you get this numbers online, if you're trying to crash into something, that's 4 damage. If you're trying to hit face, you're hitting for face for 2, and naturally you're going to be able to mow the grass a little bit. You're going to be able to tame your opponent's board without actually having to pay attention to it. you're able to be quite ignorant. And then if this is also on turn 4, because naturally that's the best spot for this, you're summoning 4 onion patches. If you have the numbers, right? If you're there, all of a sudden you're dealing 8 damage to face and 8 damage to the board. Or if you're for some reason needing to clear a whole bunch of wards, that's 16 damage to the board. If you can tell me another turn 4 play that does that, maybe outside of Omen Mages, I don't know. That's where this gets crazy. There are not people playing this. Makes sense, because it is pretty high rolly. But when it happens, 8 plus 8 or 16 damage total are 2 ridiculous numbers to happen on turn 4. That's insane, and that's why you have to be so careful, because the minute you see someone playing onions, you understand and you realize the fear that it's instilled in you, because if you can't pace yourself and heal and deal with everything, there is a decent chance that after 2 Burgeon turns, you've taken a total of 16 damage to the face, and there's a lot of very simple options they have to try and close the game out. And that's kind of what you're seeing. We'll go over it later in the deck, but they play pretty clunky finishers just for that extra number that you're most likely at. So we have Lovely Heart Monica. So choose one of the following. Search your deck for Amoria, Monica's Familiar. Summon it, and then shuffle your deck. Or you can summon one from your hand. Okay, naturally, you really want to summon it from deck, but who cares? And then you can tap this and Monica's Familiar in order to deal 3 damage to something. You would be surprised how good that effect is. That's basically just unconditional going first. You can ping something without having to Evo. So it saves you an Evo slot. It also discards a card because that's what Monica's Familiar does. And yeah, I would say it's a bit awkward that this is only at a ratio of 2. And this is also only at a ratio of 2. But naturally, as you can see, you don't have that much space when you're running 20 onions. And notably, my friend Will Intentions was actually preferring to run 21 onions. I do not really have the ability to tell you the reason. He just felt that you needed those extra in order for your later Burgent turns. Because you got to remember, the first effect says look at the top 5 cards of your deck. The second effect is the one that guaranteed grabs them from the deck. So, like, that's the thing about this. You might still whiff on that last Burgent because you've thinned out your deck so much, you've run through so many onions, that it's a little bit unlikely for you to hit both. And you'll need that in order to kill. So if you play this and you feel that way, you are justified because other onion players are thinking about that. Moving on, we're playing Chain Lightning. So it's a simple burn spell that sometimes will come up. And if you take a look at the amount of mages we're playing, so we have, 3 mages here, 2 mages here, 3 mages here, 3 mages here, and 3 mages here. So it is actually, they're cheap, right? And unless your opponent's just board clearing you, it's not the most unlikely thing in the world for some of your mages to stick around. Naturally, you're not playing it for free like you would in regular mages or Omen Mages, but, that's besides the point. I think it's still a very good option because the chance opportunity that you get late game when it's like turn 9 for some reason, or turn 6 when you started your turn and you have some mages that they weren't able to clear, magically you're going to start dealing 8 damage to them, and that will definitely help you clear games. Don't discount that at all. And then we have, to finish everything out, we have Saphira, Synthetic Beast. This is an old rune tech that if your deck really needs a big push, she's your lady, all right? I just talked about turn 9. When does she become relevant? Turn 9. Realistically, you can sometimes slam her down on 4, and magically you have a 7/6 that your opponent has to deal with. If they can't, you have to tank the damage. I played against Vincent by the same man, Will Intentions, and what he did was slam Saphira down. he had somehow cycled through, I don't know, like 16 cards in his deck, hit this down, and it had like 14 attack. I had to shrug at him and say, I can't deal with it. I took the damage. I magically still won the game. But that's the opportunity you have. If your opponent cannot clear it in that instance, yeah, they might just take that big damage. 6 health is not easy. Some people aren't even able to clear Jerva, which only has 5 health, so yeah. But on turn 9, when you can slam this down, give it the attack, and give it Storm, yeah, it's going to end the game. Because, like, what, you have like 19 onions in your grave? Sure, dude, it's going to have 21 attack. I'm pretty sure they're dead. With that, you know, it's a quick one when 3/4 of the deck are pretty standard. I'm gonna say that onions get, I think it's another 3 out of 5 deck. Depending on the locals scene that an onion player exists in, it could feel a lot more like a 4 out of 5. But the more you know about onions when you're playing against it, the worse it performs. So it's very much a surprise factor thing. I'm going to give it 3 boomfish out of 5. I thank you for taking a look, paying attention. I'm going to be posting a few more rune decks just to try and even everything out for the different classes. And then we're going to be moving on to our set 16 coverage to prepare everyone. Stay tuned, and thank you for tuning in.